Hello Airigami fans, this is Roger coming back at you with Airigami tips and tricks. Uh, I'm going to do a series of videos showing how I've I build one of these Airigami planes, and I'm not going to go through the process of how I edit them, but I am going to try to take you through the things I use, and hopefully you guys can build some better models too. Anyway, this is a Boeing 737-800 with winglets. I printed out some extra parts down here from another an 8th generation version of the plane that I probably am not going to use. I have built this plane once for a friend, and if I don't forget, I'll try to show that model to you because I already gave it to him, but I did take a real quick short video of it. But I've done some editing. I have added the collars to this template that had come with this version 8 or generation 8 Airigami model, because I like the collar was a little bit darker, and I think it'll make a better looking fuselage for the American Airlines livery. I have printed it out on 2 different card stocks. I believe this card stock is 90 some pound cardstock, I think 97. The reason I did that, the only thing that I probably will use off of this printout is the fuselage, because I find it easier to round it if it's not as heavy as a cardstock that you print it on. I have the engines. I'll probably use the this part of the engines, the actual engine housing and the front of the engines, because since you have to round them, it'll work maybe better than the heavier cardstock. I'll probably use the heavier cardstock for the engine attachment things, and I have got some tricks to show you on those. I have sized the landing gear, and I'm not going to fold them. I'm going to use my method of making my landing gear. I have sized them to where I want them and pasted them in here. It also comes from the 8G version of that airplane. I've also optionally resized the engine, because this one seemed a little large, but I still may end up using this one. I'm going to fold them both. For that purpose, I made a little jig on the end of a dowel rod. I don't know if you can see where I made that the same shape as the front of the engine printout showing the engine fan blades, and I fold my engine around it. But I've already made this one. I've already made this little, I call it a jig. I've already made it for the big pattern, so that may be the reason that I stick with using the larger pattern that come with the actual Airigami printout. So, and then again, as I said, I printed it out on the thinner cardstock and on the thicker cardstock. So this one is the thicker one, and I'll use like the wings, the tail section, the rudder, all that I'll use from this template, and I'll probably even cut my landing gear out of this heavier cardstock because you want it to be a little firmer. And of course, that's the first thing you got to do. Is if you want to edit your model, you obviously got to put it in a paint program, and I use Paint Shop. You have to edit it there before you print it, of course. I got me some tools to work with. I've already had this, and I've mentioned it to you before. This is a little hobby miter box, and of course it comes with the miter saw, and you'll see how come I use this on this particular these Airigami card models at some point in my build process. I will show you that. I got a cheap $1 box. This is to put parts in as I cut them. The long section in the front will hold the wings and the fuselage. while I'm cutting things out, and I'll drop them into these holes. I've already got a little chunk of modeling clay prepared to shape and weight down the nose of the inside of the front of the plane when I build it. I found this I'm like 63 years old, so my eyes ain't what they used to be, but I found this magnifier that clips over my glasses. I wear glasses. If you don't wear glasses, you'd have to get you something to clip these to or find another way. But I got this 3x clip-on magnifier. It greatly helps me cut my parts out. And basically, I use these to see better and see close up. And I've got a pretty good pair of scissors, and you really need a good pair of scissors, but these come from years ago. These are surgical scissors. And I've always used them for my models, for cards, and cutting out cards with these scissors. These are good scissors. I even bought a pair just recently. My wife would always use these out in the kitchen. Well, I took them from her, so I bought another pair because she was just using them to cut up like rice noodles and things like that when she would cook them. So I bought her a pair off eBay, and they're surgical steel scissors, but boy, they sure don't work. They don't work as smooth as this pair here. So this is this is indispensable. I got another pair somewhere if I can dig them up. It has a more of a rounded nose than this pointed nose. So I wanted to show you that. I know that's probably not something anybody's going to be able just to go out and grab unless you get something off eBay and find out it works better. But this helps me cut out the card model, and I'll do what I am learning is I've built several of these planes, and on this one that I just gave away, and I'll try to post that into this video. That's indispensable when you when you build these things. The print out is, you need to have a good printout if you want a real good model. I know some people may not have access to the funds to buy a decent inkjet printer, but anyway, I print them out on not photo, but standard and high quality. I set it for high quality when I print these models out to get as good a print as I can get on these models. I found out one thing. If you want your model to even begin to be as straight as possible and look as good as possible, you got to cut it as precise on both sides that you're cutting as possible. You can't rush through this and expect a quality card model from these Airigami templates. You have got to cut precise and accurate on each side so it all mates up. So I will begin building this model by not by cutting out the parts. I am sorry. I put a lot of gloss coat on these models when I'm done with them. And a man that builds the larger card models of things, he showed a tip on YouTube how to gloss your card models. And he's right. If you try just to build it and then spray the card, it just doesn't look that glossy. So what his tip was, and this is what I use. I don't know, I think this is what he used, but there's all kinds of glues, but you want something that dries perfectly clear. I use Elmer's Glue All. Basically what I'm going to do when I show you this build process, on the parts that I'm going to use, I will run some beads of glue, and I got a old plastic credit card. You can use anything like that, and I'm going to spread that glue out on it. I use these binder clips to hold that paper down so it don't start curling from the glue. And when that glue dries and you build your model and you spray it with gloss coat, it's going to turn out a whole lot better. So I will begin my build process showing you how I spread that glue, even though I'm sure you're all capable. But I want to take you through my build process from the beginning to the end, show you how I make some extra things for the plane to detail it a little bit. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's detailed a little bit. So anyway, stand by. We'll go through the build process in future videos. And this is Roger signing off for Airigami Tips and Tricks.